An article by Ugodie Obichukwu raises an interesting question: why Igbos rarely appear on Forbes Africa Rich List. And to understand this, we all need to understand how the Forbes list works. Let's break it down in simple terms. How the Forbes actually calculates wealth. The key point is this: Forbes does not gauge wealth. They only count wealth that can be proven with public data, such as shares in publicly listed companies, stock market valuations, official corporate filings, audited financial statements, transparent ownership records. For example, Aliko Dangote, his wealth is tied largely to Dangote Cement listed on the stock exchange. Abdul Samad Rabiu, his wealth is connected to Bua Group and Bua Cement. Mike Adenuga, Telecom Empire, Globalcom plus oil assets. Because parts of their wealth can be valued using public numbers, Forbes can calculate it. The second way is Igbo wealth is often private. Many Igbo billionaires operate differently. Their wealth is often inside private trading empires, import-export businesses, large distribution networks, real estate, manufacturing companies not listed on stock market. Examples of strong Igbo commercial hubs: Onitsha Main Market, Ariaria International Market. These markets move huge amounts of money, but the businesses are mostly family-owned, cash-based, privately structured, so outsiders cannot easily calculate the exact wealth. The other one is cultural business style. Another factor is how Igbo business culture developed. Many Igbo entrepreneurs prefer full personal control, family ownership, avoiding outside investors, avoiding stock market. And why? Because listing a company means public audits, government scrutiny, sharing ownership, financial disclosure. Many businesses simply don't want that level of exposure. The fourth one is the invisible billionaire problem. There are many wealthy businessmen people talk about, but their wealth is hard to verify internationally. Examples often mentioned in Nigerian discussion include Arthur Eze, Cletus Ibeto, Innocent Chukwuma. These guys are actually rich, but Forbes cannot easily measure private company revenues, privately held oil blocks, real estate portfolios. So they rarely appear on global rankings. The fifth one is institutional wealth versus personal wealth. According to the article by our brother, it also hints on something bigger. Modern global wealth favors institutional companies, and that means publicly traded companies, corporate governance, global investors, transparent accounting. Companies like Dangote Group, Bua Group, they can attract billions in international investment because investors trust the numbers. Private trading empires, even if huge, don't easily attract global recognition. Does it mean Igbos are not rich? No, it mostly means their wealth is hard to measure internationally. Many Igbo fortunes are hidden inside trade networks across West Africa, warehouses and logistics, manufacturing clusters, private distribution chains. These systems can generate billions but don't appear on stock exchanges. Now, in simple terms, Forbes measures visible wealth, not hidden wealth. But these are not the only factor. The explanation by Ugodie Obichukwu about transparency and public companies explain part of the story, but many analysts say several deeper factors may also explain why Igbo names rarely appear on the rich list published by Forbes. Let's look at other possible factors. Number one, sector of the business matters. Most people who dominate the African rich list build wealth in heavy industries. For example, Aliko Dangote, cement, sugar, refinery. Abdul Samad Rabiu, cement and infrastructure. Michael Adenuga, oil and telecom. These sectors have huge scale and high valuations. Many Igbo entrepreneurs traditionally focus on trade and importation, spare parts distribution, electronics markets, regional manufacturing, retail networks. These businesses can be profitable, but they rarely scale to tens of billions of dollars the way oil, telecom, or cement industries do. The second one is fragmented wealth structure. Igbo commerce often spreads wealth across many smaller businesses instead of one giant corporation. Example, instead of one company worth $20 billion, you might have 200 companies worth $20 to $50 million each. So the wealth is distributed across many people, not concentrated in a single billionaire. That makes it harder for one person to reach the Forbes threshold. The third one is historical disruption, the Civil War impact. The Nigeria Civil War has a long economic effect on the Igbo region. After the war, Igbo bank accounts were limited to £20 regardless of previous savings. Many businesses collapsed. Industrial infrastructure was destroyed. While the Igbo rebuilt through trading and entrepreneurship, many analysts say the war slowed the emergence of large industrial corporations in the region. The fourth one is limited political access to strategic industries. Many of Africa's richest people built wealth in sectors that require government licenses. Sectors like oil blocks, telecom spectrum, mining concessions, large infrastructure contracts. Access to these sectors often depends on political connection at the federal level. Some critics argue that Igbo businessmen historically had less political access to those sectors compared to other groups. This is debated, but many political analysts mention it. The fifth one is preference for cash-based business system. Another factor is the traditional cash-heavy trading system in many Igbo commercial hubs like Onitsha Main Market, Ariaria International Market. Many businesses there operate through private financing, family capital, informal credit system, trust networks. And because of these, revenues are rarely publicly recorded. Company valuations are hard to calculate. Again, this makes it difficult for global rankings to measure. The sixth one is some Igbo billionaires avoid public exposure. Some wealthy individuals deliberately stay low profile. People often mention names like Atoeze, Cletus Ibeto, Innocent Chukwuma. But because much of their wealth is inside private companies, the exact figures remain unclear to the outside analyst. So, the real picture is a combination of factors. 1. Many Igbo businesses are private. 2. Their sectors are different from oil or telecom. 3. Wealth is spread across many entrepreneurs. 4. Historical events affected industrial growth. 5. Informal trading systems hide real valuations. Thanks for watching. Please share this video widely. I am Azuka OJ. Bye bye for now.